11:59 of Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Welcome to the Daily Gun Show, live edition. Today we kind of have a special edition. G-Webs is out on the road as we speak, and I'm going to be the pseudo host for today. Bob's going to be helping me, and a little bit later on we'll hear from G-Webs. So we'll kind of have a truncated show, so to speak. But first we're going to cover concealed carry, online classes versus classroom classes for concealed carry. Then under gun stuff, we've got cases for transport on planes. And we may or may not have a gun channel story time. I don't know if somebody has something lined up for that or not. And then under training, we have, as important as offhand single shot training is with your offhand, how often do you actually practice with your offhand in your range sessions? And as well as our normal day-to-day items that we do virtually every day. So on that note, we also want to welcome everyone to the show, and please, if you can, in the comment section down below, feel free to put what state you are in, and also give us a thumbs up. That would appreciate that greatly, as it helps us rise higher in the recommended section of shows to listen to. So feel free to put, if I'm from Illinois, put Illinois and give us a thumbs up. That would be great. So, I'm just trying to keep an eye on some of the comments, and this is show 354, so I get that in there, so I don't throw that all out of sync. And I just realized I forgot to embed it over on gun channels. So I'm going to have to back up here just a moment and take care of some administrational thing. There we go. Let me grab that link. This is what you get for all these non-professionals here. Yeah, we got Hori from Michigan, Sean from Pennsylvania so far, so thanks for putting that out there, and Scott from Minnesota. Excellent. So let me go over to the gun channel side and edit some of that information so you can get the current show over on that side. Sorry about that, gun channel side. That was my bad. Let that come up. And insert media. Okay. And then save overview. And then view group. And again, you're seeing the total lack of professionalism today is all on me. So hopefully if you hit refresh, you should see show 354, which is what's showing up on my screen. So that is now indeed correct. So Bob, before we start the show, is there anything either on the news or on gun channels or anything that you want to mention? Bob, you're muted.
Oh, well, you know what? That probably is why nobody could hear me. Like you say.
Well, that's okay, because it took all this time for me to embed the video.
The professionalism is rubbing right off on me.
Yep.
Anyway, no. Yeah, no. My internet is much better now with Royal Super Camera. I can actually run my internet. Boy, I'm getting a echo through you, Dano. Anyway,
Yep.
yeah, now I can actually run my camera, so, and a lot better speed. Plus, it allows me to watch what's going on the other channels, such as on the YouTube side, which I'd like to mention that Sean Bain is from Muna Monagali, PA, same town as John, Montana, and Scott 57 is from Minnesota. So, yeah. Okay, I'm still looking for those people that are from, you know, different countries. But, yeah, get a host in different countries. We're an international.
Anything in the news or anything?
What's that?
Anything in the news?
No, not that I was paying attention to, but then I don't really watch news much.
Okay. G-Webs is here, and when he's ready, he is going to make an appearance, but he's not ready yet, so we'll keep rolling. All right. Let me go ahead and head over to starting the show with CCW. Online concealed carry classes versus going to an actual class where there's an instructor and you're with your other classmates. This is a versus thing, not doing both. It's one or the other. Oh, so Bob, what do you think some of the advantages of doing online CCW are, and then some of the cons?
Well, of course, the online one, number one, is going to be your convenience. Being able to do it when you want to do it, not when it's dictated to you. So that's huge advantage. Downside, of course, is going to be you're not going to get the same kind of personal attention. The same as you. It's basically, it doesn't matter whether you're talking CCW or training or whatever type of training you're doing. Any type of training, it's always going to be better to get personal training rather than online training. But, you know, online training is not saying that there's anything wrong with it. It's just saying that just by its nature, it's not going to be as good as like a one-on-one type training situation that you get with an instructor. Just my opinion.
Right. Now, being that it's online, would you expect it to cost less or maybe more?
Oh, I would think it should cost less every time because it's a mass product, right? They just pump it out and then sell the product versus the person having to spend their time every class.
Okay. I guess when I thought online, I was thinking that the lecture was like you and I are talking right now. It was online, that it was live.
No.
Versus a tape recorded thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they use tape recorders anymore. That's what I was assuming.
Well, yeah, an audio recorder.
Well, yeah,
audio
would do like a video or an audio, like a video recording of someone showing you what you've got. If you watched an instructor class, except that you're getting the classroom, but you're not going to get able to say, oh yeah, well, excuse me, sir, but what about this or what about that? So you don't get that personal attention. Email questions. Yeah, so and that's the downside of it. But like I say, the upside is you can do it anytime you want.
Yeah, and I would think that since each CCW class is state specific, that would be critical because listening to what's allowed or not allowed in your state versus someone else's state is the difference between possibly getting pulled over by the police or talked to by the police, or worse, getting arrested and not. Because I heard on the internet doesn't exactly cut it with the local police department.
Yeah, you have to make sure that that you're learning or the course that you're taking specific to your state.
Right. Now, with classes where you're actually in person, and again, it can still be live, and just the person is actually there in front of you, as well as there may be 6, there may be 10, there may be 15 or 20 people there. What do you think some of the pros and cons are there in a traditional classroom situation?
Well, in a traditional classroom situation, you're going to get a more individual attention. That just goes without saying, I think. As well as you get the interaction with the other student. So another student might ask a question that you hadn't thought to ask, but you might get some really good information from it. So I think definitely personal instruction is better than online. I have no disagreement with that. But I do think that online instruction has a value. I don't think I'd want to put all my eggs in the one basket. I'm just going to train online, and I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be just as good as anybody who just has personal training. You're not. But it's nothing else is a good base to learn the basics. That
And and I certainly agree with you. And I think if you have a live presentation in the online version, that can almost equal a live presentation in person, with the exception of what you mentioned, which I think is the big difference, which is hearing the other students' questions that you may not have thought of until after the class was over, or realize that, hey, yeah, there's another perspective on this issue that I may not have thought of.
Exactly, and that's the one big advantage you want to have with a real class versus an online.
And and I guess this next part is more of an opinion piece, but that you want to start off on strongest footing, and that being that you want your state information to be as clear and concise as possible, with getting any of all of your questions as well as other students' questions answered. Because if the foundation of your knowledge is weak, then you're more likely to make a critical mistake once you're out there in the real world. And that can cost you your time and your life.
Right. Yeah. So, I really think we've settled it that, there's nothing wrong with online training, but don't make that your only training.
Right. Certainly nothing wrong with it, but it's not necessarily the best.
Right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next category, gun stuff, cases for transport on planes. I'm sorry, did you have something else?
Well, I was just going to say, before we do that, we always like to touch on one of our members.
I hadn't done my I got this.
Okay. Just, I'm trying to help you out here. Don't get excited.
But before we get into cases on transport on planes, we usually like to highlight a Gun Channels member. And today's member is SeanPwnery. Mr. Pwnery, in addition to being a mastery of gun knowledge of all things, especially tactical pop quiz, has come up and stepped up during the week and been hosting when Jimmy's not necessarily been available, and sometimes kind of co-hosting with them together, kind of sharing their resources, and has really done a great job on Gun Channels as far as making the presence during there available to listen to, almost kind of like a radio show. And so I give Sean 2 thumbs up just for that, let alone for the knowledge that he brings to all of us over at Gun Channels.
I don't feel comfortable giving Sean a thumb, because I save those for me. So I just want to say, I think I really thank him for doing that, and it's great. He's a real asset to the Gun Channels family. So thanks a lot, Sean.
Yep. All right. So getting into the topic, gun stuff, cases for transport on planes. Now, I have never transported a firearm on a plane, so this is something I have questions, but I have no answers. So what's required, and what would be step 1, 2, and 3, generally speaking? Granted, there's going to be some variation, but what's step 1?
Like every airport, step 1 would be get a good certified case that's certified for transporting firearms. You can get them in any of your local gun shops. They're going to be basically any type of hard case that's lockable, and then you want to make sure your firearms are, oh, I don't know, it depends on where you're going, but in a lot of cases, overkill is probably the best. So put a trigger lock on it, put it in a case, lock the case up.
How would someone know that it's TSA approved? Because it does have to be.
Right. Well, what you have to do is just when you go to the gun shop, do your due diligence and ask them, is this CSA approved or FAA approved or whatever process it is. They're, you know, the manufacturers are actually building them for those rules. So
right.
That's your first thing, is make sure that case is, and I don't think it even has to be metal. I think as long as it's lockable, it can be a high impact polystyrene, I believe, or
okay.
plastic, whatever that is.
My next question is, I do understand from hearing other people that have flown with guns, is that there's a lot of variation from one airline to another. So what would be the next step?
Well, your next step is going to be check your local airport regulations as to where you check your firearm in.
Good. So you're checking that particular terminal in addition to the airline you're taking.
Exactly. And you might want to check where you're flying to and what their procedures are. I mean, you know, exactly. It's always going to be a hassle. Traveling with a firearm often is. I've been lucky enough not to have to fly with one, but I have looked into it because I've considered it. And it, you know, it's not as, you know, it's not impossible. It's not, you know, that onerous to have to do it, but it can be a hassle, and you know, that's just what we have to accept, unfortunately. Back in the old days, you could just, you know, go on the plane with your gun. It was fine. Back when people were trusted by people, but shit changes, so you can't do that anymore. Kind of sucks, but.
And I think you had already mentioned this, Bob, but just in case, you'll also want to call the facility that you'll be flying into, as well as that end of it, for the handling procedures of where to pick it up and how to how they want you to leave the airport.
Right.
They may be very specific about what doors they want you to exit from,
yeah.
Yep.
Where to pick it up, because it does come through. It goes through as checked baggage. There's if you actually, you can go look it up. YouTube's a pretty good resource for that, and they'll also show you some tips that can prevent your firearm from being stolen when it's in transport, or at least make it harder for somebody to steal it. They, you know, so YouTube's a good resource for that. There's also people that explain, you know, the procedures you're going to have to go through. So, you know, do your due diligence and check things out. I mean, you know, just showing up at the airport with your gun and going, yeah, okay, I want to fly with this, is going to get you in all kinds of shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so, yeah. It's like anything. Check things out. It's doable. Yeah. It's legal. You know, you just have to follow some procedures.
And one thing I'll throw in there, you know, I saw it in a YouTube video, and yes, it should be obvious, but since people have done this, it bears restating, is you do not open up the container while you're on airport grounds and then walk back into the airport with it not in the container. I don't know why somebody would think that that's all okay to do, but every once in a while it seems to hit the news that some dingaling seems to have decided that that was not a bad idea. He left something, he picked up that, but then he left something else back inside.
Yes. Well, you know, and that could be just somebody having a brain fart.
Yeah.
It happens to all of us.
I realize if you left your briefcase inside, you needed to secure that firearm in the rental car and then come back and get it, because you can get another suitcase. You can't get the next 2 to 5 years back.
Or even worse situations, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, you have to remember that airport security is on edge a lot now, especially with recent talks in Europe and that. So.
Absolutely. It just gets tighter and tighter, not more reasonable and more reasonable.
Right. I mean, it could be one day it'll be we can't even fly with them. I don't know. I hope it never comes to that, but
it's hard to tell. And international flying is a whole nother basket that normally we don't touch on. But yeah, that's a whole nother thing, a whole nother layer to the process. You know, even if it's from Canada to the United States, there's a whole nother level of regulations and things to go through.
Yeah.
So, and obviously there's well over 100 countries on this earth. So for us to start covering different countries would be a very long process, as well as we're really here to start a discussion, to get you to think about things, not necessarily to provide all the answers. But it is something that you need to think of. So anything else on cases for transport on planes?
I think we covered it. And like you say, I mean, the real point is we're not here to solve everything on these kind of issues, but we do like to bring up things to give people something to think about and maybe talk about later on the regular chats, right? So hopefully, you know, gives you something to think about. And if you do have to transport or maybe make a video on it, let us send it to us. So we'll take a look at it. Can be, you know, possible we'll put you up on the show, or at least give you a mention.
Yep. All right. Next thing we got in our training section. Question is typed a little odd, so I'm going to have to free range this question here. As important as single shooting with your offhand, that is, how often do you actually practice and draw with your offhand in your range sessions?
And
this is a question just as much for the audience as it is for us here. So I'd like to see some of what those over on gun channels and those over on YouTube, what they have to say in regards to, do you practice when you go, even if it's just one magazine worth, or if you have a revolver 5 or 6 shots with, do you practice at least once with your offhand every time you go to the range? And I, for once, can say, do I do it every time? No, I don't. Should I do it at least once every time? Yes, I should. And that's bad on me.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's my sloppiness. But I'd much rather be honest about, no, I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. But I do make that attempt. And I would say every other time I tend to do it. I'd like to say I could do it every time. I know Sean Bain says he does it every time he goes. He says you don't know when you'll need to do one-handed shooting. Psycho Camp says no, because I'm usually shooting for a score. Arctic Fire says I practice offhand at least 1 mag per trip. And that's Arctic Fire. That's exactly what I would like to say. But being honest, is probably every other trip, for at least for myself.
Yeah,
and that's over on YouTube. And Robbie on Gun Channel says he does it every time he goes, as well as Dog Body is every time he goes. He shoots at least 1 mag per hand. What about you, Bob?
Oh, I try to, yeah. I probably don't do it even every second trip, but because I like to shoot one-handed anyway. It's just one of those things. That's the way I learned to shoot way back. So it's comfortable for me. But changing hands up, I mean, one of the reasons I don't like, or I don't do it as much as I should, is I don't like how my score degrades. But of course, why does it degrade? Because I don't practice enough with it. So it is something we should all be doing, because you don't know what's going to happen out there, and you don't know when, you know, that one hand may be incapable, your strong hand might be incapacitated. So yeah, it's a really good idea, and I think we kind of all agree. I mean, some people are very good at it, sounds like, but it's something we probably should all do more.
Yeah, Vroomtastic says, I do it pretty much every time. Usually shoot our state law enforcement qualification course at least once, and it includes weak hand shooting. What I'm wondering, Bob, is you say you shoot quite a bit one-handed. do you do the old-fashioned where you're turned perpendicular to the target? You have one hand on your hip and your other hand is out, you know, to your side.
Yeah, I do.
Kind of like the old-timey pictures of when you see guys shooting one-handed.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I don't usually put my hand
I
on the
mean, if you can do that accurately, that's a whole lot better than some other stance where you can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Well, it's true. It's how you learn, right? And like I say, when I learned to shoot pistols, I was a kid. And back then, there were really, you know, the only people who really did that were the real tactical people, right? And I wasn't one of them. I was shooting to hit the target with the gun, and that was, you know, that was the way I was taught. So that's the way I did it.
Yeah. CycleCamp put a question out in the YouTube side. It says, once per what? And what I mean is, do you shoot your firearm offhanded with either, if it's a revolver, 6 shots per range session, or 1 magazine per range session? Now, whether you go once a month, whether you go once a week, depending on how often you go, how often per range session do you do that? And Mr. Hendricks says, I can't draw at any local ranges, but my last 2 mags are one-handed, each hand as rapidly as the range allows, but not true rapid fire. Yeah, a lot of places have it where you have to space a couple of seconds between each shot. You're not allowed to go boom, 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 boom. They consider that wild and out of control.
Yes, which is kind of ridiculous, because if you had to in a defensive situation, that's probably what you would do.
Yeah, I mean, wild and out of control is determined by your shot placement. If you're shooting the hanger, yeah, that's wild and out of control.
Yeah.
If you're hitting the paper, that's not wild and out of control, at least in my opinion.
And it also, like, I mean, it also allows you to find out just how fast you can fire and still hit your target, because that makes a big difference in how fast you're pulling that trigger and whether you're going to hit and where you're going to hit. So
right.
that again, that's another thing that takes practice. The biggest thing with firearms is all practice. You can take every course in the world, you can watch every video in the world, but if you don't get out there and get some, you know, some trigger time on your actual gun, you know, you've crippled yourself. So biggest thing is yeah, practice. But whether it's one hand or drawing from, it must be really tough not to be able to draw from your holster. I mean, most of the ranges around here you can, but then I usually shoot at outdoor ranges and they're a lot more lenient out here. So,
right,
you know, it's a big advantage. But yeah, trying to draw offhand, like trying to draw with your weak hand, and you're also trying to draw off a holster that's not set up for that, it can be a little disconcerting the first couple times you try it. So it is something you should practice if you can. Even if you're just practicing at home dry firing, it's still a good idea. It learns you how to manipulate the gun out of the holster and stuff. So all that. Yeah.
On Gun Channel's Dog Body has an interesting comment. He says, well, with the way some guys shoot, I can see why they say no rapid fire. It only takes 1 F-up to get a range closed. So, yeah, I do kind of can see that, depending on how screwed up the person's firing was.
Yeah,
but then there are, you know, and they're not inexpensive, but there are precautions that the range can take to a certain degree to keep the other patrons safe.
Right.
But they're not cheap.
But that's the problem, is you get these people who don't know what they're doing. They get in there and, you know, they're going to turn the gun sideways and blaze away or something. Yeah, that's not good. But, you know, that's where the range master comes over and says, excuse me, you can't do that. And, you know, you're being dangerous. And here's our card. You can sign up, take some proper gun handling courses if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's, you know, one of those unfortunate things that happens at the range is, yeah, you can get that one doofus that kind of ruins it for everybody.
Yeah, that does happen, unfortunately. Sometimes more often than I'd like.
Wow. Yeah.
But see, we've lost G-Webs again. I don't know if we're going to get them back or not. That's kind of hard to tell. We might not. But at this point, I'd like to move on to, let's see. We're missing, we're going to skip over gun shops just for today. And we're going to move on to the gun of the day. And as soon as I can, I'm going to screen share that. Let me do that. And you should be seeing Smith & Wesson Model 60.
Yep. And that is the 57 snubby that Smith came out with.
Is this a 5-shot or a 6-shot?
5. Yeah. And so basically, it's kind of the big brother to the Model 36 or the Chief Special. So it's a small, convenient revolver. Again, you've got that wonderful reliability of the Smith & Wesson, good trigger. They go single action if you need to. I sound like a revolver guy, but I'm not. They're single actions. So, but I do love these.
Yeah.
I really do. I think they're almost like little pieces of jewelry. Well, a few of those are pieces of jewelry.
Right. In fact, this one here is an example of engraved gold inlay.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Of that eagle right there. Now, a lot of them, I know the older ones came with that little tiny wooden grip.
Yeah.
On it. Now, was it later on that they came with that rubberized grip, or was that always a Hogue aftermarket grip?
Oh no! Like, I mean, as soon as they came out with those, people started wanting different grips, and but they're not a range gun. I mean, that's a self-defense pistol, so you're not going to bang off 75 or 100 rounds with it in full hot 357s.
Yeah, this particular one that I have up on here, this is really more a commemorative. Somebody's retiring, something like that.
Yeah. But I mean, still functional. I would carry it.
Oh yeah, it'll definitely still function.
So yeah, they're a really nice little revolver, and I've just been on a little revolver the last few days. So,
but like this one I have up on the screen now, this is the type that my uncle had. That I would see him. He when he would come home from work, and he had his suit, and he had the shoulder holsters, and that's what he had in his shoulder holster.
Nice.
As a detective, and he had a little cash box that he would lock his gun and his speed strips, speed loaders in.
Oh yeah.
When he would change clothes from work.
Yeah.
But it's just something, when I was, 12 years old or whatever, that I just, remember. It's like, oh my goodness, there's a gun. Because I was raised in an area where I wasn't even allowed to look at guns.
Yeah. You weren't even allowed to have cap gun.
Let alone be, 12 feet from another room where there's a gun in there.
A real gun.
Yeah, a real gun. Oh my.
Like, make no mistake, 5 rounds of 357 Magnum is a potent weapon. For self-defense, for sure. I mean, just look at all the copies of it that have been made, right? The Charter Arms made small stubbies. The Ruger, that's the thing now. Is the Ruger LCR? Is it LCR? Yeah. Revolver. I know our co-host actually carries one, and nice little gun. I've shot it. It's nice. It's got a stout recoil because it doesn't weigh much. But yeah, it's a self-defense gun. It's beautiful.
Right. A quick question. Without saying what it is, have you seen the gun movie today?
What is it again? Hang on.
Don't say it.
I'm not going to say no. Yes, I have. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll go ahead and talk about it. And today's gun movie is
Bulletproof Monk.
Absolutely. Bulletproof Monk. You have seen it. I have not.
Yeah.
So convince me why I should bother seeing such an old movie.
Well, because it's kind of one of the early gun fu movies, you know, where martial arts are mixed in with firearms handling. So it's got lots of shooting. It's an exciting movie, and it's just an interesting take because it's a more like the whole gun fu thing seems to have come out of Asia, and they traditionally most of their action adventure movies were more, you know, the martial art hero. So this was a way for them to actually mix them together, and it turned out to be quite the phenomena, really, in movies. Now it's almost, well, now it's gone mainstream, right? We got the Wick movies, and
right,
just
yeah.
every movie's got some of it in it now.
This was 2003, so this was, I mean, for most people, for Bob and me, it's nothing, but for most people, this was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's like, what? That was yesterday.
Yep. But the premise of this movie is based on a very underground comic book. A Tibetan monk becomes mentor to a young street kid whom he can teach to protect a scroll. That's the premise of the movie. And it stars, I don't know, I'm sure I'm going to slaughter these people's names, but Young Fat Chow, Sean William Scott were the two primary characters, and Jamie King.
Yes, and thanks, Sean, for that info. He's got it up in the YouTube chat. So, yeah,
I'll peek over there, see what he's got.
Yeah, I remember when it came out that it was like the big thing because that the producer director, he's known for his martial arts action movies in Asia, was a big name there, and so making a movie that was kind of crossing the two countries, or you know, that was made to work in both countries, was quite a good idea, and I think it well worth taking the time to watch for sure. It didn't do as well as it should have, but yeah, it's one of those movies that, you know, if you see it come on, watch it. It's exciting. It's got lots of stuff going on. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, I did watch the trailer, and I did see a little bit of that, you know, moving faster so the bullet doesn't hit you. He kind of leans back faster than the bullet can go. So almost he's moving back. I don't know how to describe it. He's not bending the bullet, but he's moving out of the way of the bullet. That's how fast the Asian guy is going.
Yeah, well, you know, some of the stuff the martial arts guys can do is just mind-boggling.
Well, it's Hollywood too.
Well, no, it is, but if you know, like real, like, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen those shows where the Shaolin monks come and do they're actually doing like almost like a circus act, and it is really impressive. I mean, these guys are amazing. They really are almost beyond belief. Like, it almost seems like they're superhuman, and that's all they've done is train their bodies. So, yeah, but it was neat. It's neat to see like where they put the two together with the firearm handling and stuff like that. So, very cool movie. Well worth
All right. We're going to do something a little bit different today. I know, Bob, I said we weren't going to do something, but I decided an alternative way to do something. So if you give me a moment. It's time. It's time. It's time for the Tactical Pop Quiz.
See, you said
what would a daily gun show be?
Wouldn't say windbreaker, didn't you?
Yep. So the way we're going to run this is we're a little shorthanded today, but I am going to read the question. I expect you to actually pay attention. I will be looking between the two screens for the correct answer, but if I happen to be between screens and I don't get it right, all I can say is, suck it up, Buttercup. I'll do the best I can, and that's all I can do. So on that note, I will read the question. Today's question was sent in by Psycho Camp. So thank you very much, Psycho Camp.
Yeah, no, I can watch the YouTube side if you want.
No.
Okay, that's great. Just say winner if you see both parts of the correct answer, because they have to have both parts.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll watch the gun channel side. Okay, the question is as follows. What cartridge replaced the 3040 Craig in what year? What cartridge replaced the 3040 Craig in what year?
Okay, nothing yet on the YouTube.
Well, you got to let them type.
Oh, come on. How long can it take to type? Yeah, I thought you were doing sound effects. Where's the sound effects? Come on.
Well, I do, but I'm afraid to take away from my eyes away from the screen, because then somebody's going to type in an answer and.
Oh, Angry American's close, but not quite.
Oh, wait. Oh, almost. And that's all I'm going to say there.
Yeah. Oh man, they're right on either side of it. Mal, Diecaster, you're close, but.
Yeah, and Mr. Wright, also just about, you're halfway to home.
Yeah. Nope, not yet. Like Cap says, oh, got it. Winner.
Winner, who do we got?
Diecaster, 30.6, 1903.
Diecaster, congratulations. Yes, the answer is 30.6 in 1903, Diecaster. Congratulations, you are today's pop quiz winner of the day. You know what to do, but just as a reminder, head on over to dailygunchannels.com/popquiz. Fill out the form so we can keep track of who's number one. Yeah, who's number one? Yeah, who's number one? You're number one. So congratulations, Diecaster.
And yeah, Diecaster, congratulations. And Angry, you were just Cycle Camp is saying Sean was first, but now I'm gonna get into that.
Yeah. No. Suck it up, Buttercup. We're shorthanded. We did the best we can. Be glad we got a question.
Unless I missed it. Hang on. No.
Oh, no, we're not going back.
No, he didn't miss it. Unless he was on the gun channel side, and well, you were watching that side.
Yeah, no. We're not going in the Wayback Machine. All
right. So we got the winner, and Diecaster. Well, that makes you the tactful hot shot of the day.
Excellent job, Bob. You brought it home. If Z was here, he would be proud.
He would be in tears at how badly I butchered that.
or he would be snickering. I'm not sure exactly which.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So, Bob, I know we're kind of getting down towards the end here, but I do want to ask you a gun question or two here. I know you're a ways away from possibly next year's trip, but just as a general question, what firearms will you be leaving at home?
Damn near.
What firearms might you be bringing?
Oh, I think I'm going to pare it down this year. I brought too many last year, so I think it's just going to be, probably the VZ. Well, I might bring an SKS. Maybe an SKS if I can get it through the border. Still high power again, of course, because I need a carry gun. And more likely just my 870 pump shotgun. Just, you get
Right. So a shotgun, a rifle, and that's it.
And stuff like that. High power.
No Browning?
I just said the Browning high power.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Talking about their gun. What guns would he grab?
We got somebody mumbling in the background here.
High power.
I think it's coming through.
Yeah, but all right. And I got to ask somebody a question quickly here. Just a moment. Mr. G, are you ready for an unveiling, or do you want to hold that for a separate show after this?
Tell him I'm working on that.
He's working on the back right now. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
I think
Okay,
it's
so
Jimmy James.
Yeah. So does he want to do that a little bit later tonight in another show? We're not saying anything. He
Yeah.
just got us muted.
Yeah, he's saying a little better.
Yeah. We're gonna save that for a separate show a little bit later tonight. Hopefully, I'm not gonna say anything. Bob's not gonna say anything. We'll let that be G-Web's his thing. So on that note, I
But
know we're
it does have a new starter motor. We will divulge that.
be quiet. No giving away details. All right. Since we are at the end of the show, Bob, unless you have anything else, I'm going to hand it over to you.
No, I think we're pretty much wrapped up. Are we going to do on what's on tonight, though?
Oh, yes. And today is Thursday. And Clover Tack is on tonight, if I remember correctly. And then I'm assuming we're going to have a special edition. What's G-Web's calling it? His on the road thing?
Gun show loophole tour? I don't know.
Yes, yeah. I'm thinking he's going to have either that or a variation of that.
Yeah.
Sometime tonight. That's what I'm thinking.
That's probably what's going to happen. Yeah.
So unless you have something else to throw out there, that's what I'm aware of.
No, I think that's pretty good. Let's just we'll just go to the quotes and wrap it up.
Okay.
We're a little bit early, but hey.
Yep. We're just a hair short of an hour, but we did the best we can with what we have, and that's all you can ask.
And that's it. When you only got the two of us, that's all you're gonna get. Old people are lazy.
All right, so hit it.
All right, so this one's by Daniel Webster. Before I do the quote, though, I would like to thank everybody for watching. I'd also like to remind everybody, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's get the word out on the show so we can get more people watching it and supporting it on Patreon. So anyway, we'll end up with a quote. God grants liberty only to those who love it and are always ready to guard and defend it. So if we want to keep our liberty, we better be ready to defend it and to guard it. It's all up to us. Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com. The guys and gals at gunwebsites.